No spoilers. Peaky Blinders, The Immortal Man is the highly anticipated film sequel to one of the most successful Netflix shows of all time that also made us all fall in love with 20th century English gangsters. Did we really need this movie? Let's talk about it, and no spoilers. No spoilers. During World War II, Tommy Shelby returns to a bombed Birmingham and becomes involved in secret wartime missions based on true events, facing new threats as he reckons with his past and rising national stakes. The film picks up years after the series ends. England is suffering intense attacks from Germany, and Tommy Shelby is kind of doing his Humphrey Bogart and Casablanca thing, saying this is not his war, but eventually things get personal enough for him to engage. And again, no spoilers, that is as deep as I will get into the specific plot elements. Besides Murphy, this film stars Rebecca Ferguson, Barry Keoghan, Stephen Graham, Sophie Rundle, Tim Roth. This is a really good cast. It's written by Stephen Knight, the creator of the show. It's directed by Tom Harper, who directed a lot of the episodes of the show, and pretty much the entire crew collaborated on the show already. So what results is a film that feels more than anything like 2 episodes of the show. But interestingly, in this case, it feels like it would be the first and the final episode of a normal season of Peaky Blinders. For like the first 45 minutes or so, the storytelling was paced like it was counting on 5 more episodes to let the plot unfold. Without getting into any specifics, a lot of the reason that Peaky Blinders fans will show up for this movie is kind of withheld for a long time. And you could say that anticipation is being built, but I knew the movie was less than 2 hours, and it just felt like they were allocating too much time to this specific part of the story. The first act is extremely necessary from a plot and character perspective, but it's not very economical with its time. I can specifically think of certain things that could have been cut out of the first 45 minutes that would have really helped speed things along. But eventually, certain developments drastically change the tempo of the film and things really start moving. And that change of pace is what propels us into the final 45 minutes or so, which, like I said, feel very much like a Peaky Blinders season finale. The problem is, in between those 2 episodes, there's like 10 or 20 minutes that are expected to bear the same weight that 4 1-hour episodes would usually bear. The plot is big. Like I said, it revolves around secret operations in World War II, which is really fertile grounds to plant a Peaky Blinders plot. But I can't help but feel like there's a whole season's worth of story here, or at least a 2.5-hour long movie. But a less than 2-hour runtime just doesn't really cut it. You can feel the story straining against this relatively brief runtime, to the point that character motivations can get very foggy and don't always hold up to scrutiny at all. I, in particular, feel like Rebecca Ferguson and Tim Roth's characters are not fleshed out, and they feel more than anything like plot devices. The further and further I got from having watched the movie, I started to realize that so much of what they do just doesn't make sense, and they really feel like they're just there to move the story along as quickly as possible. I have no doubt that their characters could have been really good with more development, but just not enough time for that in this movie. But still, I was engaged with this film because it's a voice that we've grown to know and love through the show, and Cillian Murphy as Tommy Shelby is obviously iconic, and he does a great job here, brooding and charismatic as ever. Much of the show's success was based on the aura that it built around its characters, and you definitely get that here. There's one familiar needle drop in particular that really made me lean in. You'll know it when you hear it. And the griminess of Birmingham in the 20th century is back and more tactile than ever. This movie is not afraid to get its characters filthy, and I love that. And the plot itself is really good. It's a fascinating bit of history, and I think that the way that the villains rationalize what they're doing and make it sound reasonable is actually really compelling, if not adequately explored. There are certain elements of it that feel very espionage-esque, and I think it bodes well for Stephen Knight's screenplay for the next Bond movie. One thing that I really admire about the film's approach here is that it's not pure fan service. The story has Tommy make choices, both in the runtime and before the first scene, that are not like stock decisions that are made to go down really easy. In fact, I don't even know if they all work for me, but they're definitely going for it and not just basking in the legend of Thomas Shelby. They're trying to tell his story, warts and all, but I just keep going back to the fact that it felt so rushed. The decisions that didn't work for me could have worked with more development. The familiar faces that show up don't always have enough time to really impact the story, and the new faces don't get much of an opportunity to establish themselves. More time wouldn't have fixed every every problem that this movie has, but I think it would have given the story a chance at having a greater impact. This movie skips over 10 years after the series finale of Peaky Blinders. So much has happened since then, and we have to get caught up on everything that's happened in the past, as well as have a propulsive story. And I just don't think that it smoothly does either of those. I needed time to understand where I was, where is every character at, if a character isn't here, why aren't they here? I needed to feel that emotionally, and then there had to be a forward-looking story as well. It kind of sounds like a job for a whole season of TV, doesn't it? Still, I had an okay time with The Immortal Man. As a fan of the show, it was great to spend more time in this world, and I think they found a really compelling way to weave the plot through the real-life events of World War II, even if it really felt like the decaffeinated version of what it could have been. For all of those reasons, Peaky Blinders The Immortal Man gets a C+. It's going to be on Netflix next weekend, and I'm sure Peaky Blinders fans are going to flock to it. I hope everyone has a great time with it and enjoys it more than I did. I found it diverting enough, but it left me wanting a lot more. But please let me know what you thought of it. I'm very interested in people's reactions to this, especially if you loved the show. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you at the movies.